My name's Norman Bowman, and I'm a retired mental health nurse. I grew up off the Donegal Road in Belfast. I was born in 35 Daphne Street. I was a middle child of three of a family. I had an older brother, Robert. He was born in 1951. Then I was born in 1954, and then I have a younger sister was born in 1960. And we all were born in the exact same bedroom of 35 Daphne Street, we two up, two down house. And we really enjoyed. We had a lovely family life. We never had much, but we're never short of love. With a huge extended family. I had a granny and granda Bowman, lived in Matilda Street off the Donegal Road. And then I had my mother's granny and my granny and granda to my mother's side, who lived in Albion Street off Sandy Road. So, but a very, very happy childhood, and ran about playing football, playing games in the street, playing bands in the street. You should dress up, play bands, and it was idyllic. I enjoyed primary school. I was a school goalkeeper. I wasn't academically brilliant. One of the reasons being that I wasn't innately bright, but I also had very poor eyesight. I didn't have glasses until I was 12 year old, so I couldn't see the blackboard properly. I couldn't read properly. But I enjoyed school. I enjoyed. I'd know I wasn't academically bright. I failed the 11 plus, and I was given a loose rein. I could do whatever from my parents. Do what you want to do. And I decided I would leave school at the age of 15. I'd no I'd no notion as to where I was going, but I knew where I was going. I was going to become an apprentice joiner with H&J Martins on the Ormer Road. It was a building firm. But I remember walking out of secondary school. I was 15, no qualifications, Easter time, and I was starting working 2 weeks as an apprentice joiner. And I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? I had great notions of being a BBC photographer for David Attenborough wildlife programs or something. And yet, with all, I was starting work as an apprentice joiner. Now, there's nothing wrong with being an apprentice joiner, but it wasn't what I'd expected to do. As part of learning my trade, they sent me to a training school, which was like a jail. It was like a borstal. It was terrible. I loved school, but I detested the training school. And as a result, I left and I was on the brew for a year or so. And my father said to me, he says, "Why don't you follow your brother and nursing?" My brother had went to school with a chap across the street called Tom Gervin. Tom had started work as a nurse in Purdysburn, mental health nurse. My brother Robert then started nurse as a mental health nurse. And my daddy said to me, "Why don't you apply for Purdysburn? You'll be working inside, you'll not be working out in building sites." I'd never any notion of being a nurse. And I applied. I applied for the job. I had to sit a test, and I passed the test. And on the 15th of May, 1972, I commenced nursing as a student nurse in Purdysburn. I started work in a villa called Lagan A. And I remember going into the villa at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was given a white coat, and I stood about. I was like a fish out of water. I hadn't a clue what I was meant to do, what I should do, and it wasn't scary or anything. It just I wondered. It was like walking out of school again. What am what am I doing? But as time went on, I got an understanding of the routine of lagging. People got up in the morning. You helped get some people dressed. You've helped with delivering breakfast. Then you would have been shaving folk. You would have spent the morning maybe listening to the radio. There wasn't a lot of therapeutic endeavor. It was referred to as custodial care, basically. And it used to be that people who worked in mental health nurses in the old asylums in the 40s, They were referred to as attendants. They weren't referred to as nurses until the National Health Service in 1948. But they were also referred to as keepers. They were keeping people safe. And when I look back on it, I probably was a half decent keeper. And so far as I was keeping people safe, and I was hopefully, to the best of my ability, showing some compassion with individuals who were lesser off than I was. But by no stretch to have any illusion that I was a, a, a great nurse, because I was just there to look after people, basically. Well, I completed my registered mental nurse training in 1976. Then in 1979, I went to the city hospital and did my registered general nurse training. It was another 18 months training. Went straight back to Purdysburn. And then I completed a course in community psychiatric nursing. Took me a year. I was off every weekend. I enjoyed it. But then I started work as a community psychiatric nurse in Shankill Health Centre in November 1982. Spent 14 wonderful years working in Shankill Health Centre as a CPN, community psychiatric nurse. But then there was an advert for an 18-month full-time course at the University of Ulster doing CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy. And I really didn't even know what CBT was, but I thought a year and a half at university, that would suit me. So I applied and luckily was successful. Completed the course, started work as a cognitive behavioural therapist in January 1998. And that's the moment I realized what this is all about. I had what's maybe referred to as professional ignorance. I thought I had a notion as to what clinical anxiety was, clinical depression, etc., etc. When I did the cognitive behavioral therapy course, what happened is they brought me in as a nurse. They stripped me down and put me back together again as a cognitive behavioral psychotherapist. But I left the University of Ulster with a lot more understanding and a lot more knowledge. And that's really when my understanding with regards mental illness and the delivery of CBT, that's when it really began, the January 1998. Mental health is feeling well within yourself, being able to cope with stress, being able to make decisions. And sometimes our mental health needs a bit of support in those areas. Mental illness is a completely different thing. Mental illness is a condition, it's a medical condition. And there's different types of mental health problems, mental illness problems, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. What the jobs taught me over the years is that everybody is vulnerable. We're all vulnerable. There are things that happen in life that, and regardless of who we are, we all react to a greater or lesser extent in the same way. One of the difficulties is with any issue, any problem, any worry, the main thing that troubles people is the appraisal we make of certain situations, certain sensations. And that's where the main problem lies. We're all vulnerable, but lots of it's due to a misinterpretation of either sensations, thoughts, notions, ideas. And that's what it's taught me, that we're all the same. I always looked at patients as patients. When I worked in the hospital, they were admitted, they were a patient. When I went into the community, that's when I began to see people as people. They had families, they had children, they had parents. And that's really when I began to see people as that person, that individual is the same as me. It's a person, it's an individual. They're not labeled, I'm a patient. Generally, how someone would know if they need to seek advice or help with regards to any kind of mental health or mental illness issue is when it begins to impact on their day to day functioning, what they're doing, when it begins to significantly impact on their lifestyle, when it begins to impact on their sleep, their appetite, decision making, being indecisive, being irritable, being snappy, being tearful, being upset, feeling guilty, when they stop engaging in things they would have normally enjoyed doing, hobbies, interests, socializing, when they themselves begin to know, they mightn't be able to put it into words, but when they begin to know, I am not feeling right, there's something, I'm just not at myself, that's the time to approach someone and to talk to someone. So, where do people go in their darkest moments? The way I view it is, if we're worried about something, what happens is it's like a triangle. The top of the triangle, we become preoccupied with something. Now, the greater preoccupation we have about something, the greater belief that what we're preoccupied about, we get the greater belief that it's true. This leads to greater distress, which leads to greater preoccupation, and it becomes like a vicious triangle. The more we're preoccupied about something, the more we believe that what we're preoccupied about is true. It causes us more distress, and the more distress we have, the more preoccupied we become. And the more preoccupied we become, the greater belief we have about what we're preoccupied about is real. And it just goes round and round, and we become trapped in this goldfish bowl where the term sometimes is used, our perceptual field becomes narrowed. We're stuck inside this body of ours. Well, actually, we don't diagnose. We make what's called a formulation, and it's the formulation is so that both me and the individual I'm with really understand what the problem is and how we're going to move forward with it. But there was one lady I saw one time, and her parents lived up by Glengormley direction, but she would never go up the motorway to Glengormley because she was frightened, if I go on the motorway, I'll take a panic attack and die. So she avoided the motorway. And I said to her one day, listen, have you ever actually ventured onto the motorway and had a heart attack? And she says, no, but I've had about 41 close shaves. And what she meant was there was about 41 times she was going to go on the motorway, started to get anxious, and then pulled off and went up the shore road or whatever. And it was by working through, by gradually exposing her to the motorway, that she eventually began to see that what she feared happening didn't happen. She didn't take a panic attack, and she was eventually able to travel up the motorway to Glengormley to visit her parents, which was lovely. The way to listening, what it means to me is being able to listen, let people unburden themselves, but not just to listen, but by listening to understand where this person is, where they're stuck, and help them to move forward. There's an old saying, and it goes along the lines of, when you're at peace with the world, you're at peace with yourself. And by listening, hopefully, I and the individual I'm working with can get to that inner peace. If I would have any words of wisdom, the only words of wisdom that I would pass on to anybody is to be content. If you're content with your lot, you're a lucky, lucky person. Most people strive for a better house, a better job, bigger pay packet. Contentment's the thing you want to aim for, because if you're content, you're a millionaire.